Hello again, and welcome to Everything Foster Care with me, Jason Cottrell. And our brilliant interview today is with Richard Powell of Credo Care. Now, as you know, I've been learning about how there is a whole different range of types of foster caring, from long-term, short-term, respite care. But Richard's company, his independent fostering agency, started 25 years ago, specialises in children with disabilities of all different types. And in this interview, he gives a really great overview of what's that like, what the support there is like, how it's a bit tricky sometimes to get people to get rid of that myth that it's a really difficult thing to do, because most of the time it's not. The support that's out there, and a whole range of different areas around looking after kids with more needs than usual, let's say. If anybody has any questions that they are interested in asking, either go directly to Credo or give me a shout on the comments below. Like, subscribe, and share. Remember, the share is the really important thing here, because it's that thing where it might not be for you, might not be for your friends, but it might be for your friends' friends, in which case somebody gets fostered. Okay, enjoy the interview. Hello, Richard Powell, Managing Director of Credo Care. Is that correct?
It is, David. Yes, Credo Care Fostering. That's us. And thank you for having me on your show.
Okay, no, that's very kind of you to take the time. First things, Credo. That means something, doesn't it?
It is. It's togetherness. It's a sense of one. It's a name actually developed by Roy Hipkiss and Damien Mead, our two fellow directors, who started the company 25 years ago now. We're in our 25th year.
I read that in the year 2000. I mean, that's a celebration time, is it? This year?
It is. We've been doing a lot actually. So there's been really good engagement with the staff, the carers, and children, and we've had a couple of notable visits from people, and we've had David Suchet do us a little video, and we've had so we put lots of events around, and it's been a great year. Comes to an end in effect the 25th year in August, but we're still in a celebratory mode.
Okay, well, that's what we like to hear. Now, I think you already know that I'm a foster carer myself. But you have a particular speciality for your children, don't you? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's right. So the agency really started with the aim of trying to support children with additional needs, disabilities, etc. And that was quite unique at the time, and I still believe it is unique. And it's something that has developed probably more over the last 6-7 years into more supporting children with also additional health needs, palliative care needs, end of life kind of support. And that's not to say that we don't still support children with additional needs and general disabilities, which we do, but there's been a growing focus on finding families for children who traditionally may have spent more time in hospital, residential care, or even hospice care.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I spent my actual job, the little business I've got, is delivering cooking oil. I mean, it's a peculiar niche. But when COVID hit, nobody wanted cooking oil because nobody was going out. And so I had to go back to my old profession of being a nurse, and I went to work for a hospice. So the podcast prior to this was Everything End of Life, funnily enough. And one of the things that was most notable, I think, is unless you're actually working in that profession, when you say end of life for children, that throws up all sorts of scare stories in people's heads, I think, and they go, "Oh gosh, I don't know what do I do with that?" You know. So how do you frame that for foster carers to say, this is something, it's a process, you will go through it and you will come out the other side?
Well, for a number of foster carers that we have, that won't be their experience because those children with those needs aren't living with them. But for those foster carers that who maybe don't even set out to actually have a child with a life-limiting condition because that wasn't their as you say, it's not a conversation that some foster carers start on their journey to foster. Nobody wakes up and says, I'd like more children in my house. Lots of people who foster have thought about it for years, if not sometimes decades, come to us.
Yeah.
And for those children who have sort of end-of-life needs, we do a lot of matching, a lot of consideration about who the best family is for that child, which is why we find placing children with such needs, it takes quite a while, weeks, if not sometimes months. And then in part, that's trying to get the carers to get into that space, to understand the ramifications for not just for themselves, but for their wider family. And we see the foster family as not just obviously the foster carers, but maybe their own children, other foster children in the household. And so our child or the child joining them becomes part of the family. And we've put some things in place to support, and I can take you through that.
Yeah, that would be great.
So we started with one, just having a very clear structure about what we mean by palliative care, end-of-life care. And so we've got some very clear basic policies and procedures, if you want to call it. So there's the guides that help explain what we're talking about. We then also have staff champions, foster carer mentors. We also have nurse trainers. So we have about 6 nurse trainers, also tend to be sometimes palliative care nurses, intensive care nurses, paediatric nurses, and a range of experiences and skills that they bring to us. Then we're not their full-time employer. They're often working in other fields or the NHS and work with us. And so they also have nurse time. So we allocate nurse time to advocate for our foster carers within the wider health world of trying to understand and what it means by some of the jargon, respite documents, advanced care plans. If you're not starting in the journey with knowing all this, it's all new. It's be confusing, and we try to navigate a way through by assisting our carers in understanding it, so they feel part of it and not excluded from it.
One of the things I liked about your website is you talk about treating your foster carers as professionals, as kind of almost equals, as you say. And I think that's just incredibly important for the as a foster carer to feel valued. And that really comes across on your website. It's a partnership thing that seems to be going on.
It is, and strangely, we've just actually updated our foster carers charter, the pledge that we, as an agency, our foster carers offer to each other, but what we offer the children. So our charter's just in final development, probably be published in the next week or two. But that experience just takes us through what our foster carers are hoping to achieve. And when you're in the world of supporting children with serious health conditions, then just being able to be in the room to talk to professionals, to some of the doctors, some of the nurses, alongside the local authority or even the birth parents, as a partnership. And often, sometimes foster carers are excluded from quite delicate conversations, as seen as you're not the legal parents of this particular child, but they're there every day. They're the crucial member of that child's life.
Yeah, we've had that in the past, whereas there'll be a meeting about the children that we might have been looking after for 6 months or some longer and have an intimate knowledge of. And the meeting will be for the professionals, and then we'll be invited to join. It's like, okay, but I get that. Having been a psychiatric nurse, I've been on the other side of the fence where, you'll have a patient review and then the relatives and the patient might be invited in after the multidisciplinary team have talked it through and their approach, etc. So, I kind of get that. It can be a little tricky for some carers to understand that. I'd like to take this back to a personal level, though, just for a sec, if I may, Richard, and that is, you could have chosen any profession. So what made you choose this profession, may I ask?
Well, actually, I started out my nurse training as well. So I was training as a learning disability and general nurse in South Croydon. And I loved nursing. I loved actually patient
Yeah.
care. But I found I was spending more time wanting to understand people's stories and histories, and whether someone's had a stroke or Guillain-Barré syndrome or has got cancer. I was finding myself more just talking to 50-year-old men who have lost their business and are never
Yeah.
going to drive again, and then doing obs and injections. And so I thought, is this the right profession for me? And I left
Yeah.
and reevaluated what I wanted to do. And a colleague had left and become a social worker. And talking to him, I thought maybe that's the profession for me. So back to university I went and became a social worker. And I've always found the world of disability. I've got a daughter who's got additional needs. She's got a disability, lives at home with us. And so
Hmm.
it's something that I think I've had an interest in, personal interest, and it's
Right.
just grown and grown. And I love where I'm working. I think we've got a great team, and the foster carers, frankly, are amazing. Credit and my hats off to the foster carers for what they do, what they give up, and
Yeah.
hopefully what it brings in terms of joy, even though at times it can
Oh,
become a sad situation.
yeah. I mean, certainly from a personal level. Sorry. Um, we found, even with some of the tough children, the level of joy is just incomparable. Evidenced only by on Friday we'd had a couple of kids for a year, and we hadn't seen them for a long time. And the older one phoned up completely out of the blue to tell us that she's horse riding again because we got her into horse riding, and just that one connection that she still wanted to be, still seeking our approval and wanting to be a part of the family, sort of thing, was just absolutely ratifying as to what foster care is all about. So yeah, I'd say foster care is one of those things that makes your heart much bigger, even when you get into it. But yeah, and you mentioned the training, which I think is something worth mentioning because you're going to have a different set of training than normal just basic foster care training. And for us, we've got so much training. I've got to tell you, the first day we went in to be talking about foster care, they said, well, we've got 2 days training to give you. And I said to my wife, 2 days? What on earth are they going to try and fill up with 2 days, And little did I know that they needed probably 4 or 5 weeks, really. And the amount of training and support that you get as a foster carer is phenomenal. But yours will be a little bit more specialist, I kind of think. You're going to have a different range of training and courses available. Is that correct?
It is. And so all foster carers will have that generic, what's called mandatory training, understanding,
Yeah.
safeguarding, how to protect children, how to keep children safe at home, your health and safety kind of training. But in regards to the children, or a number of the children we're placing, that additional child-specific training, we call it, and that's where for children who have got health needs, it comes with trying to understand what a peg is in terms of feeding a child, or a nasogastric tube, and
Yeah.
how to pass food through a tube. Or even, we have children who have tracheostomies, so how to manage and care for the fact that there's some really risky situations that could occur, and
Yeah.
how do you address those? So we do palliative care training, but also paediatric first aid, and just that
Yeah.
child specific. And that's where frankly, our nurse trainers or paediatric physios come into their own. And it's amazing that we've managed to attract some really quality trainers, basically, to our agency.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm familiar with pegs and
Mm.
tracheostomy stuff and but for those who aren't, I remember one of my patients 4 years ago who's and I'm not a nurse anymore, and there was a young student nurse with us, and it was the first time she's seen a colostomy and a bag, and she was just completely thrown. She didn't know that that actually even existed as a thing. And I thought, how could you got this far in your training and not know that's there? But you know, it happens sometimes. Uh, um, and it took a little bit of just gentle, saying it's okay, because the patient was lying there needing the bag change, etc., and saying it's okay, and it's okay to be surprised. And the patient was going, I get this all the time, don't worry. And I thought that was very generous of them. But it can be a bit, visually
It can
shocking,
be
if you like.
overwhelming, and not just for the
Yeah,
foster carers, obviously the wider family, the other birth children in the household, and the
yeah,
child arrives with all these additional bits of equipment and needs. And so there's a lot of work to be done to try and ensure that the child who's joining the household has got the best care possible, but also the family
yeah,
that are having that child are prepared as much as we can. And so, again, we do things like we have foster care mentors who support new foster carers for 6 months to help them take them through a journey.
yeah,
That nurse time that we give the carers, again, more about trying to understand and basically be prepared for what's coming down the road. And look, I might have had my nurse training background and doing this for many, many years. I'm still learning about some of the conditions that some of our children
yeah,
come to us with. And so we encourage our social workers and we do provide the relevant training on things like what is a peg and what is
yeah,
a jag. These are all different types of equipment and tubes that children might come with. Well, we all need to understand what they are, how to manage it, how to support it, and work with the other professionals around that child, community nursing, etc.
yeah.
Just give the best situation that we can when we address any issues that come up.
And do you get a lot of support from hospitals, local authorities with equipment and that's the actual bones of, if you like, of care, the wheelchairs
Uh,
and
I'd like to say it's a mixed bag sometimes. Uh,
I was going to say it's a tricky question. Sorry, I
it
just
is.
thought
No,
I
it's
don't want to
absolutely
create a
fine.
problem.
It's something that we've been working with for many years. And for those families that have a child with a disability, they'll know you can get some grants from the council to maybe have some
Right.
adaptations for a particular child or that child who's coming. But if that grant has been accessed already by maybe the birth family, then it's not going to be available to the foster carer in some circumstances. And we
Yeah.
provide respite. And so the grant or those sorts of contributions to our respite carers is not available. So if you're having a child who's got particular needs, maybe uses a wheelchair or needs tracking on the ceiling. So we've been doing some adaptations to people's houses, putting in wet rooms if needed. It's
Yeah.
expensive. It's not able to be done for every household because of things like costs. So we're looking at how we can address that. But yeah, the equipment is a large part of uh, what we need to try and have in place for making
Yeah.
things again safe, comfortable, take the pressure off the family, basically.
Okay. So let's talk about this is the interesting bit for me is how do you entice people to think about becoming foster carers for Credo? I mean, I don't know where to begin with that, really. I mean, how do you? The whole reason of this podcast is because I realise, just in general, we're at 6,000 foster care families short in this country, and
Mm.
that's 10,000 kids needing, a real home for real kids. Um, so it's kind of tough already, and you're out there in a sense in the market trying to convince people to become foster carers for children with extra needs. So how do you go about that? I'm interested in that because the
Yep.
point of this podcast is to inspire more people to become foster carers.
Well, fostering, I think, if you want to foster, it is an absolutely amazing opportunity to, without it being a cliche, to make a difference to a child's life.
Ah,
And we
yeah,
we
100%.
we've had children who have come to us who have left residential care. They've never lived in a family since leaving their birth family. And we've had children come to us from hospital who have never left hospital since birth. So the opportunity to have a
Yeah.
child come to you who really is looking for a family is we can only but say thank you to every foster carer
Yeah.
that comes forward. So how do we do it? We've got the added, as you say, the added challenge of all the foster carers who are thinking, I want to foster, go through the process, but who starts their journey by saying, actually, I'd like to foster a child with really complex needs and disabilities. And
Yeah. Quite.
I might have to give a lot up to have the sorts of time and commitment, and maybe even giving up work to come and have a child with those sorts of additional needs. So you're already in a small pool of people who want to think, I'd like to become a foster carer. And out of that
Yeah.
pool, how many start their journey with, you know what, I'd like a really complex child, if you don't mind. And so you already started with a large pool becoming a small pool. And then
Yeah.
you need the requirements. So we're not asking for everybody to have a downstairs bedroom or to have the facilities to have a child with a wheelchair. And most of our children are not in wheelchairs. They're actually, mobile, get about kids of all ages from 6 weeks up to 16 when they come to us. So we it's a hard ask, but we
Mm.
do get a lot of inquiries. And last month we had over 100 inquiries. That is
Oh,
people
really?
contacting us to say, I think I'd like to start my fostering journey. I'm at the beginning of my fostering journey, or even existing foster carers who transfer to us, which actually is quite common. But I can come on to that one. But in terms of the someone starting their journey with us, sometimes there is that nurturing process of taking them through the process of becoming a foster carer. They're not quite ready yet. They might just be
Mm.
inquiring. We get a lot of inquiries from, because I think the nature of our cohort of children, we get a lot of inquiries from health professionals, education professionals, care professionals,
All
but
right.
also family members who may have or have had a child, sadly might have even passed away, or they have a child who's grown up or have a child with additional needs, and they're wanting to continue their journey to care. And they have the skills, they
Yeah.
have the knowledge, and they want to
The
continue their
familiarity. Yeah.
fostering.
Yeah.
And we're a place for them to come, basically.
I think that's fabulous. Because, yeah, it's nice to hear that there is a steady stream, if you like,
Mm.
of inquiries. And that leads on to another slightly tricky question, is what is the kind of, and how do you deal with burnout? Because it will happen for some people. It'll be just a bit tough and they'll leave the profession. And so is that a big issue for you guys, or is it not so much?
It's actually not the largest issue that we find for how we, I suppose, lose foster carers. Ours tends to be with foster carers taking a child into their own hearts permanently, and often through
Right.
adoption and special guardianship orders. That's where they become, in effect, the legal parent for that child. So
Yeah.
a lot of our children, when they leave us through becoming permanently placed with their carers, which is a great outcome for
That's
us.
a
There's
lovely thing to
also the
hear.
challenge of if you want to call it a resource of a foster carer maybe disappearing. Well, it's for a really good
Yeah.
outcome to become. The others is because of our children having all these additional needs as they get older and become 18, a lot stay with their carers under what's called shared lives. It's an adult care kind of provision. So they leave fostering maybe, but become adult
Yeah.
carers to that same child. So again, a great
Yeah.
outcome, continuity for that young person, but it's an opportunity for families in effect to end fostering and do a different career path. But the way we try and reduce the general burnout is one, there's the respite care. So because of the nature of the children that we have, sometimes having a break is needed. There's not a lot of time off if you've got a child, even if
Yeah.
you're a birth family member with a child with a disability. Can you just pop out? Can you just go away for the night? You might thinking, oh, I can't really leave the 16-year-old because of his additional needs. I might need to get someone
Yeah.
in. So we have support workers. So, we've got about 65, 70 support workers, and they work with our foster carers on,
That's
uh,
amazing.
yeah, uh, I'll be out there. Not a lot of fostering agencies have support workers who would basically come to your home and maybe be there for 5, 10 hours once or twice
Yeah,
a week to give a break, depending on, holiday times or term times, maybe just coming
yeah,
over for a couple of hours in the evening, or maybe even taking a young person to the Brownies or to Cubs. And because of their needs, they need additional support to be able to attend those groups. So we have support workers, but
yeah.
also the respite carers, and having the respite carers, which is other foster carers, as you know, who will have a child come to them for a night, a weekend, maybe a week or two, and then go back to their main carers.
Do you know, we have found, I mean, I've got to plug EFS just for a second, this Eastern Fostering Services, because that's who we work for. And they've been really supportive when we've needed that bit of time. And it does come in that two things, one of their staff or support workers popping out and just saying, look, here, take a break, take an hour. Because we've had some quite, high maintenance kids. And but also, and this is and I'm sure you have this, is we have in the agency they have two or three foster carers who just do respite, and they become like family, after a while, and it becomes a really close knit, support network, if you like, and they become a part of that bigger support, and you get to know them, and the kids get to know them, and that's, I think, for us the most important thing is that the children, we're not just saying, look, go over there for 2 hours and or 2 weeks and gives a break. They feel like they're going on holiday, and that is such, and that's the way we kind of frame it when we need a break, which isn't that often, to be honest. And if we have little holidays, they'll come with us, So, because we just love fostering, to be honest, mugs for this game. So let's talk about. Well, first of all, I just want to cover the size of your agency, because I noticed that you've got 27 members of permanent staff, albeit one of them being a small bear, I
So
believe. That's okay.
you will
So
see that bear at some of our children's events, and we've got the outfit, and whoever is inside, which is obviously Credo Bear,
yeah,
it's
obviously, yeah,
hot, but it's fun, and the kids absolutely love Credo Bear
yeah.
when he's about.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a job for the winter, really, rather than blazing summer. But yeah, so generally speaking, I think our foster agency has about 50 foster carers. I mean, have you got is that comparable, or have you got a lot
Yeah, it's a little,
more? Or
probably a little bit under ours, but not too much. And we will recruit at times 15 fostering families a year, which doesn't sound a
right?
lot, but when you're looking
Oh,
to, as I say, when you're trying to find, 200 families, think, oh, we're thinking about fostering, but only 100 actually put an application into foster. Of those
yeah,
100 that put an application in foster, I bet you there's probably only one or two that start their journey saying, and we'd really like a child with disabilities or complex health to come and live with us. And so you're
yeah,
already on this diminishing pool of resources that you're
yeah,
trying to attract to come to you. So what that means is that the journey can be challenging for us, but support and respite are two big key points that make fostering work, frankly,
yeah,
I would say. And it's great
yeah.
that you're getting support over where you are, and that's what
Oh,
we
yeah,
really would like. We'd just like to spread the fact that supporting a child with additional needs, it's not a common theme for a lot of agencies,
no,
which is why I said earlier about the transfers. And as you know, David, that's some foster carers, they're allowed to, they're not allowed to, they can just choose it themselves. They move between
yeah,
agencies, and it's sometimes, it's for various reasons. The biggest reasons why we have foster carers transfer from maybe one agency to us is often they've had a child, it's been 3, 4, 5 years, they've literally not had a day off, and they're looking for some breaks, they're looking for some time to stop that burnout. And sometimes what's happened is that they've come to us, and it's the reason we have those staff numbers in part is even just having a respite coordinator, the complexities of being able to actually move a child from one household to another with his oxygen. Have you got tracking? What about the hoist? What about the bed bath?
Yeah.
Have you got a profile bed? All these things, they all add up to a lot of activity, a lot of planning to ensure that even that weekend break, and we've got respite foster carers who are GPs, who are nurses, who are teachers, and so they find their space to give us the time to have a child who can hopefully enrich their lives, which I believe it does. But the whole thing is about, as you say, preventing burnout, helping foster carers feel supported, and that's how we're doing it here.
That's amazing. Now, going forward, what are the plans? Because you've been there now for 25 years. And what have you got in mind for the next, I'm going to say, throw you on the spot, the next 25 years? Yeah. Okay. I want it day by day detailed, if you'll mind us.
So, in part, the larger staff group, that if you were more localized into one particular region, is because we are spread out across the regions. And, we work with, at the moment, about 45 local authorities who place children with us.
Yeah.
And that's because some of the children with the complexities that come to us, a small local authority or even a large unitary who would maybe only have 3 or 4 types of children who would come to a Credo Care in their cohort of children in care. That there may be their own foster carers can't meet the needs, but they don't want to place them in residential care. So they'll come to Credo Care. And so in that's why we're spread out. So yes, we cover you're in Eastern. I live in Lincolnshire. I used to live in Suffolk. And so, we cover, Suffolk, Norfolk, Lincolnshire, Essex, Bedford, Hertfordshire. Once you start spreading that,
reach.
You need the staff to sort of be able to get about and, meet our foster carers who are in Southend and Stevenage and Norfolk and, Ipswich, Norwich.
Yeah.
Spalding, Peterborough. It's once you start that, you need the staff to be able to give the support that foster carers justly deserve.
I've got to say that is one of the things that we've found in foster caring. Is it is a profession, but it's one where you get such an amazing journey. You start off thinking, well, we could help a child at home, and then you get to understand that most kids, from, or the large percentage, shall we say, come from neglect or abuse or tricky, difficult circumstances. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming into care in the first place. And then your eyes start to get widened a little bit more about, the bigger world out there and the needs of children in general. And it's almost like, where can I be of most use? Who do I go to find that out? And our care, I'm sure your foster care, supervising social workers, are kind of really well trained. I just want to give a heads up for one of ours, Sam Grant, who she's really out there to make sure that we are matched specifically with children that we can use our therapeutic parenting approach with and make progression for those children. So, and to be fair, we look after the younger children. Some people, I have a friend, Camilla, who's amazing. She and her partner look after teenagers, but it's horses for courses, and it's like finding out what is your own personal skill set, if you like. What are you best? How can you best help children? So, just as a last kind of thing, how how do you work that out? I mean, I don't know how Sam does it, and Emily, are um, placement, but they just have this understanding of what we can offer, and they don't put people where or kids with us that might the whole thing might break down because it's not appropriate placement. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's the one thing.
Well, in terms of the wider world of disability, if I was to call it that, we're autism accredited. We've got an autism coordinator, behaviour coordinator, and that's because if you don't have some of that expertise within your staff group, when challenges happen, when behaviour becomes a concern, you want to be able to address it in
Yeah,
the most sensitive, engaging, and way that makes a change for the positive. And so some of our social workers have been with us 15, 20 years. And,
we,
so they're I believe our social work team are really skilled. We try and keep
yeah,
cases in terms of caseloads low. So we manage and give people the time to get about and see our families, see our children. And so with that, what that does is it sort of encourages the real personalized matching. So um, I know all our families. It's because I'm, the managing director and the registered manager. I need to. I
yeah,
know all our staff. I know all our social workers and the skills and qualities that they bring. And I think the relationship that they have with their families is very close, very engaging. So when there are, and I'm, in the world of placing children into families, the vacancies, if you want to call it, that a
yeah,
family may have, a space, how many children can they have if they've got a vacancy? We don't have many spaces available because there's so many children that are referred to us as needing a home
yeah,
that as long as we get the right kind of match, that we make sure that the child is best placed with this family can meet this child's needs, and the work that's done over weeks to engage means that we have very few children who end their fostering in what would be called a breakdown. Most children leave us because they grow up and they leave.
mm,
Some go home to their birth families. And that's the uniqueness with some of our children. They're not coming in always because of abuse or harm. It's because
no,
sometimes families with disabilities just haven't got the ability or needs to
yeah,
meet that child's needs. So we do a lot of shared care as well. And we have
yeah,
children who live at home with their family and come into us for breaks, so short breaks.
yeah,
And we do respite for other agencies actually, because they don't have any respite carers. So their children come to us to have a break.
that's
And
brilliant.
that works well as well. So
Yeah,
we're just trying to find the best way to make sure that all the children come to us are in the right families and hopefully live through their rest of their minority to the best that they can. And sadly, for those children who might pass away, even if they do, that they've had a great time as much as
yeah,
possible living with a family
right,
rather in hospital.
100%. Um, I'm going to ask one last question before we leave it, and I'm going to say thank you for your time. It's been brilliant. This is a bit of a curveball one. What's the biggest myth about fostering that you perhaps would like to dispel?
I'd
It's a tricky
probably
one, isn't
say
it?
well, I'd probably say that when I talk to many new families who are thinking about joining us and they see and hear this word of high needs and high medical needs, oh, I'm not skilled about that. I can't do that. Of course,
Right.
lots of families and lots of people can become brilliant foster carers without having to be a nurse, without having to be an SEN teacher. They just need to be great motivation, the desire to want to make a difference to a child, and we can support them through the training, the mentoring, the care, the engagement that they get from us as an agency.
Yeah.
And we've had many brilliant and long-term foster carers who came to us not with massive childcare experience, but you know what? They became brilliant and remain brilliant foster carers.
That's fabulous. That is absolutely fabulous. Listen, thank you so much for your time, Richard, and very good luck in the future. And let's keep in touch,
Yep.
and hopefully do another interview, in a year or two, and see how the organisation has grown and how the Credo Bear may have developed and got his hand in
Exactly.
the honey pot or something. Would be fun doing that.
And I'd just like to wish you well on your fostering journey and amazing and
Thank
meeting
you.
another amazing foster carer. Well, that's made my day, really.
No, well, there. Thank you very much. I'll take that. All right, Richard Powell. Thank you very
All the
much.
best. Take care then.
So, what a guy! What an organisation, Credo Care. Without a doubt, one of the kindest things that you can possibly do is to start a fostering agency, an independent fostering agency, specifically for children with extra needs. And it takes some special people to run that. And as a managing director, I think Richard is juggling an awful lot of stuff, and he makes it sound and look so easy, but that must be a pretty high-pressure job. So if you want to get in contact, the information will be on the website, Credo Care, Credo, and you can either contact me, you can contact them. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And sharing is where it's at. Sharing is caring, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, let's look forward to the next interview.